Well, this is it, my last video of the year, and I start today's walk at Forest Hill station, where for the first 6 years of its life from 1839 it was known as Dartmouth Arms, which in all honesty I think is probably a better name. We've got quite an exciting first destination today, even if there's a rather steep climb to begin with. There's a real gem of London at the beginning of this walk near to Forest Hill, and that is the Horniman Museum and Gardens, where there is some farm animals, there's a butterfly house, there's also a fantastic viewpoint of London, though from this angle most of it is dominated by a rather brutalist estate. Last time I was here, a fox popped out the bushes on this path, much like that squirrel has just done, and was surprisingly brave. I'd never come across a fox that allowed me to kind of get that close before. It's a great building, isn't it? I love the clock tower here at the Horniman Free Museum. And don't worry if the viewpoint wasn't the best from up here. This is a very high ridge of land in South London. There'll be many more viewpoints of the city throughout this walk. Alongside the gardens, you'll find a former railway line. This is the Crystal Palace high level line, and I'm actually at the site of one of the stations, Lordship Lane. This is actually one of the most interesting disused railway lines in London, though this northern section where Lordship Lane and the next stop Honor Oak would have been is not that exciting. You'll have to go down to the southern end of the line where the other two stations would have been, where there's a lot of interesting things like disused railway tunnels, which we're not going to go see today, but I will on a dedicated walk around Crystal Palace one day, which I just realised when setting up for this walk that will also begin at Forest Hill. In fact, I have 2 more walks planned at Forest Hill. Well, there's a great shot of Crystal Palace over there. I am climbing up to my next viewpoint of the city, and I'm actually passing by the brutalist Dawson Heights estate, where my map shows that there's a footpath through to the viewpoint, but that path is through the building itself, so I guess I have to head around on that road, unless this is open, which I doubt. Oh, it actually is. Can I pass through there? Oh, I think I can. Is this open? Can I? Oh. Right, that saved me going around the road. Well, now that I've eventually made it to Dawson's Hill, which is a very quiet, hidden viewpoint of London, you do really get a good view of the city. I can spot the London Eye and the BT Tower down there, Wembley Stadium as well, Battersea Power Station chimneys. It's great. It's windy up here though. Even as you emerge onto the road, you get a great viewpoint of Canary Wharf, and I do see a little patch of green up there as well, which I suspect is probably another hill, another viewpoint that will ascend later on. I'm passing through Camberwell Old Cemetery, which I've always been quite fond of. First of all, you do get another great view of the city, but I've also always liked this avenue of old graves. Something almost romantic about it, and I can imagine it being in a scene for a film. As you leave the cemetery, you do come across the terminus of Route 63 at Honor Oak, which gives us an indication that we are now by the former station of the same name. The 63 was actually extended beyond here when the railway closed to cover the section to Crystal Palace, but that is now used by the 363 instead. And leaving the former railway behind us on its journey up to Nunhead, I'm now heading up to what is perhaps one of my favourite viewpoints of London, at One Tree Hill. Oh, there's a lot of climbing today, isn't there? It's not only one of my favourite viewpoints of the city because you get such a clear, unobstructed view of it, including St Paul's Cathedral down there, might I add, but you'll also find an old gun emplacement up here, dating from World War I. This was a good spot to look out for enemy Zeppelins. You'll also find up here the Honor Oak itself, the tree which gives its name to One Tree Hill, where allegedly once Queen Elizabeth I took rest underneath it. Oh, the tree also acts as a parish boundary. I'm assuming that's Camberwell. That's buried quite far down. This isn't the original tree. It has been replanted since then. There is a plaque which I assume is going to tell us that information, under which Queen Elizabeth is said to have rested on May Day 1602, and which tree was ever after known as the Oak of Honour. I struggled to read that then. There is also apparently the largest underground brick reservoir in Europe nearby. So quite an intriguing place. But I'm going to descend One Tree Hill now towards Honour Oak Park Station, which came later than Honour Oak, hence why they've had to add the park suffix to differentiate it. And since the closure, they've just never simplified it to Honour Oak. They've just kept it as Honour Oak Park, obviously. Oh yeah, and it's on this side of One Tree Hill where you'll find Camberwell New Cemetery, which I think used to be a golf course, and leads quite nicely into Honour Oak Park itself. Now you'll find along the railway line here several nature reserves. This one is Buckthorn Cutting Nature Reserve. Oh, there used to be an old signal box here. Unfortunately though, these are never really open. It's technically Network Rail property, so it's kind of leased to a foundation. So there's only 4 open days a year, and it seems like a lot of them through here, I just missed one. From what I've seen when I've looked before, they're all open on different days, so it's not like I can come down and visit all of them in one afternoon. I'd have to come on separate days, which is a bit annoying. Yeah, I can see there's a couple more down south of Honour Oak Park Station. So if they're not open, but you fancy visiting this area anyways, then I'd recommend taking the Brockley Three Peaks walk. I guess the Three Peaks is One Tree Hill, Hillyfields Park, where we're not going today, nor am I going to Blythe Hill Fields. We've gone to other viewpoints instead. I'm passing by Crofton Park Station now, which is not on the railway beside the nature reserve. I came here last year as part of my Visiting Every Station series. I sat in this delightful little garden here and had my lunch as I had a half an hour wait to the next train. I don't think there's any trains actually running today. Engineering works must be. Strangely, I can still go down and access the platforms if I wanted to. So I thought I'd come in to see if a map in here had the mistakes on, which I remember from last year. But I think it's currently being replaced by the obvious engineering works poster. Ooh, I wonder whether this will give me a little viewpoint of London. I somehow doubt it. Yeah, no, it's just houses. Whoa, no way. I've never seen a daffodil before it's even the new year before. That is super early. You know, I did wonder as I was passing whether Friendsbury Gardens here would be another private nature reserve that's only open at select times, but doesn't seem like that's the case. It's a tall bus stop. Wait, why is N343 on there twice? Also, why is 484 down there? Okay, at least this side has it all correct. It just never removed the older N343 plate. You might have noticed that I like to get a shot of a train to kind of transition between locations, but this is the line that is closed because of engineering work, so I guess I'll showcase the Rainbow Bridge instead, which I quite like. That bridge does lead me to Telegraph Hill, which I think is probably going to be our last proper viewpoint of the city today. The name of Telegraph Hill can be derived from a telegraph semaphore station which was situated here. This allowed messages to be relayed over high points of land across the country, all the way down to Deal. We visited that last year. Apparently there was also one of these on top of One Tree Hill as well, where we were earlier. I've only ever been to Telegraph Hill once before. I've been to some of the other viewpoints today a couple of times, but all of them have been at least 4 years since I have last gone there, so it's been nice to revisit them today. And what I love is that prior to the Telegraph semaphore station set up here, this place was known as Ploughed Garlic Hill, which is just a great name. Oh, there's a cat walking towards me. Never mind, he's turned away now. Speaking of old names, I'm now in Hatcham. No, it's New Cross nowadays, where similarly to Honor Oak there are 2 stations. So this one has had to differentiate by adding a gate suffix. Who knows, there might be a tube station here one day as part of the Bakerloo line, but for now we have to contend with the Bakerloop bus instead. I'm walking up from Fordham Park past the notorious New Cross Tower. You always know you're in New Cross when you're passing by this building. What I'm also passing by is what's very clearly an old pub. And what I like about this footpath is that there's little tidbits of information and history on the area as you walk down. That path leads up into Folkestone Gardens, which was an area that was heavily bombed during World War II. So it just kind of sat here as a bit of a wasteland for many years until 1970, when it was opened up into this nice little park. It's here in Folkestone Gardens where you'll find Surrey Canal Road, which, yeah, no guesses, this used to be an old canal. Funnily enough, whilst Folkestone Gardens opened in 1970, the Grand Surrey Canal closed that year. And in one of my videos from last year, we walked a portion of it, the Peckham Arm and the Camberwell Arm, south of Burgess Park. And it's at this point where the Croydon Canal would have met it, which was the first canal to be closed through an Act of Parliament all the way back in 1836. And we've essentially been following the route of it today because it is now used by the railway line, the Windrush Line, the London Overground. To think that this was pretty much a huge canal junction back in the day. It's changed a lot. This has actually given us an indication that there was a Neptune wharf here. In fact, if I just head across Deptford Park quickly, I'll get to walk another section of the Grand Surrey Canal that I've not done before. And this is it. It's leading down to a new development down there, whilst I'm right by a rather grim old tower block that might even be old enough that it might once have looked out over the canal here. The new development is continuing alongside this block as well, so maybe it won't have that much longer to live. And there's very clearly an old bridge up there for the canal. It's a shame you can't walk through that anymore to access that area. Maybe that will be a thing if once the development's complete, who knows. Ah, well, this is very clearly trying to resemble a canal boat, isn't it? This is a neat old building that survived all the redevelopment. 1902 it was built. I feel like that was quite late. Yard officers. Nobody is sure what it was used for. Oh, that's good information. That building is right beside where the Grand Surrey Canal would have ran out into the Surrey commercial docks, and it would have continued on the other side up towards the River Thames, which I walked on another walk from last year. That walk took me through the Rotherhithe tunnel, where I then explored a lot of that area of the docks, including Stave Hill, which has another viewpoint of London, by the way, which I really like. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below, along with the Grand Surrey Canal one from last year. Both of them videos are actually some of my most popular ones, so some of you might have already seen it, but alas, you can go watch it again anyways. It's good to see that the old signs are still here from last year as well. That still mentions Surrey Quays as a tube station. Also river taxi. That's a term no one ever uses to describe what is now the Uber boats. Speaking of which, here is Surrey Quays station, where there's currently a lot of construction taking place because they are building a new entrance to the station, because it is a rather cramped little one, to be honest. Just goes to show the success story of the London Overground, the conversion and extension from what was a little tube line, the East London line, into a rather expansive network that makes up the London Overground Windrush Line nowadays. And whilst Surrey Quays might be getting a new station building, what won't be is Southwark Park Station, where surprisingly there's still some remnants to look at, despite the fact that it closed 110 years ago. It actually never lasted that long at all. It opened in 1902 and closed in 1915 due to the wartime economy. This is actually a bit of a cursed location for stations though, because there was a previous one on this site known as Commercial Docks, which is possibly one of, if not the oldest disused station in London, because it closed all the way back in 1867. You know them old Routemaster buses that do afternoon tea tours around central London? Well, it seems like their depot is in the railway arches along here. I've not seen a Monopoly tea tour one before though. Does that go to all of the properties on the Monopoly board? I would assume so, right? Now, in another one of my visiting every station videos from last year, I pointed out that when you travel on the railway line out of London Bridge towards South Bermondsey, you can spot a very iconic disused tower block. And I tried to look out for it recently and failed. I'm struggling to get my camera through the fence. Well, that's because, yeah, it's gone. Okay, let's take a quick walk across Southwark Park itself before we lose the light. That's a beautiful bandstand. Southwark Park leads you quite nicely up to the River Thames at Rotherhithe, where it's almost a shame that we've lost the sun from this morning, because we could have had a rather beautiful sunset here, but it's okay nonetheless, because look at this fantastic view of Tower Bridge down there. That's amazing. The wind here is pretty insane. I'm actually kind of worried I'm only holding my phone with one hand. I feel like it's just gonna blow away. This is intense, but I love it. And whilst in Rotherhithe, what a better place to end the walk than at the Brunel Museum, where the shaft was sunk to dug the first tunnel under a navigable river anywhere in the world. And considering I walked the Rotherhithe tunnel last year and have absolutely no desire to ever do it again ever, what better place than to end the walk at Rotherhithe Station. This is the only station that is only on the London Overground, by the way, that has escalators. And there's a great plaque too as you descend to the platforms of the Thames tunnel. I can actually hear dripping water from the river. So thank you for joining me on not just this adventure, but for all of the adventures throughout this year. If you want more of the River Thames, by the way, it is featured in the Rotherhithe tunnel video, so again I direct you to the link in the description below. Also, I'm fairly certain that the shade of orange up there, can you see it? It's a bit dark, does come from the old East London line rather than the London Overground orange. So it's on to bigger and better adventures next year, I guess. Subscribe so you don't miss them out. All that's left for me to do now is to ride the Thames tunnel itself. There it is! That's my first time seeing it. I can't even get a good shot of it. The Network South East train.